not going to. Sorry, but I've done it myself. I've sat and been part of that. It's a whole new behavior.
Susan,
That's what's new, I think, is what behaviors we're called on as leaders.
But
That are just
Susan,
up to Tanya to do, to make it, because the business plan is not there for numbers of our services.
frame that in a leadership concept. What kind of leaders are we going to need?
Well, we're gonna need
To
leaders that
walk
can
us through.
stick to what the goals are and use not just how they feel about it, but also what is the data, and help people to make the link between this is the funding available, and this is the outcome we need, and this is how we can get there. I mean, it may not be just your way, I mean, bring people together, and to stick to it. To me, it's gonna take a different kind of rigor. We don't use that word, I know I'm on my soapbox, but
No.
we
It's a
don't
business
use,
lens.
we don't use the word productivity or rigor in this field.
So leadership is going to require, well, there was a
It's not as
conversation.
much, it won't be as much fun. It may in the long run be more exciting or interesting for some folks.
There was a conversation at our table about the new hiring of one of the CISs and with a business background.
Oh, yeah, well,
And so is that a change in leadership within this field?
I describe the social services as built on an idea of social justice with no business plan. And 100 years later, the business plan is starting to evolve. And I'm in a private agency, and business is a very large focus of what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think as a social entrepreneur, it is part of what you do. As we all move forward, it's what we all will need to do.
So I think those are some of the things that I think we'll see happen over the next while.
Good to hear that.
But
Other thoughts?
it's going to be interesting.
Well, I've watched with interest the unraveling of the Orange Empire. And at
We
one
never talk
point,
business again. Oh, yeah.
at one point in my career, I was quite interested in social entrepreneurship. And it was, was the topic of many workshops and areas of endeavor, and certainly tried different kinds of experiments with that, not in the range of the billions that Orange expended. But I know that was one place where the board that I was working for at the time said, it has to be funding that does not come from the government that funds these experiments, as they labeled them. Well, that certainly limited the amount of money that was available for the social entrepreneurship. I'm not so sure that model should be discounted. But I think in the wake of Orange, it's going to make it even more difficult for nonprofit leaders to be able to try to use that kind of innovation to bring extra revenue in to support the mandate that's probably not going to be appropriately resourced.
Well, you're reminding me of the rise of the Bill Gates Foundation and the Clinton Foundation and so on, how they're driving their own particular social agendas through their use of dollars. So you don't have government-driven funding, but you have privately funded. I think that's another thing we're going to see more of. So what kind of a leader are you going to have to be after all of us are retired and
I'm going to leave the field. Get right out of it.
Well, I do think that the leaders of the future will need to have much more of a business and financial background. You just cannot push that away.
It's business and strategy now. It's not
Exactly.
content anymore. It's business and strategy.
And coupled with a fulsome knowledge of organizational development, behavior of individuals, motivation, negotiation. It will be a different world than the one we graduated into, but it, in its own way, can be quite exciting. I would think.
yeah.
Regularly with the leadership of the Ministry of Children and Youth. One of the ADMs used to say, well, any organization in this ministry that's not $20 million is not going to be viable in 10 years. And I look back at that now, when I look at, the amalgamations and things like that, and I wonder, that might be the unwritten strategy within that ministry. So those are the kinds of future realities that I think we need to start to sort of say, okay, if this happens, how do we then, align ourselves? Like in a community like Northumberland, we were talking at lunchtime, this community has a very long history of services that are well knitted together and where there's cooperation as a key value. If that's the mantra then that's coming from a key funder, how do boards and executive directors create a new alignment so that there can be sort of a joint prosperity on behalf of the people of this county, particularly with this kind of a rich history?
Well, the big mantra in government and public service after Drummond is getting more value from public services, right, on behalf of both taxpayers. And so it's going to be on the leadership is to how do you get that value. And so for me, one of the interesting things is we're at a point for the first time where our price points may be too high relative to the value.
It's gonna
Community
say it's
that's
two
part
ways.
of their social network and have a better understanding how not-for-profits run. So we always, that's probably an opportunity too, like again, in most communities there's a Chamber of Commerce or a downtown business association, and having that opportunity of, business 101 or 102 or whatever you like, there's an opportunity there that we could potentially
You're
draw
giving
on.
me an idea for our next conversation. Should we bring some for-profit people to the table? I had a couple of people in the for-profit world want to come to this table.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, I would say there's a lot of it is semantics. I think it's also language.
Yeah.
You describe yourself as not-for-profit, you're telling people what you aren't. I call it public-private. I think there are lots of discussions to be had, and I'm often closed out of the door of not-for-profit discussions, although my entire career has been in the not-for-profit sector until 3 years ago. I would also jump to the notion of, I think it's a great idea, by the way, for the next topic, but the notion also of gender and mentorship, I think, is very important, because my experience in being mentored by females has never been positive, and it is a much more male-oriented process. And I think as women leaders, it's something that we need to be mindful of.
In one way, Charlene, you're saying women need to do more of it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men, male leaders, in my opinion, seek out someone to mentor, to take on the mantle, to pass the torch on to. That's not necessarily the case historically with women. I'm sure there are many social factors that contribute to that, but I think it's worth bringing to the table and discussing.
I think to make the situation more complex, it's not only gender, also ethnicities.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're using a second language to lead, how complex it is. In our society, it's getting quite complex, especially when you're getting to the core Toronto area. So it's very challenging. So,
Wow. 6 topics bounced over.
I think it's also, it's sort of, I think as, I've seen since myself being in a leadership role in an agency with Rebound coming up to 6 years, and just seeing, I guess I had the benefit of being an objective party because I hadn't been involved in the system in that role before, and seeing even how the ministries have changed in terms of their approaches and who their directions and their focus and the messaging, and the language is changing as to what their expectations. I think everybody knows that. There are subtle ways of how they are articulating things and the discussions that are taking place that I think you've seen the change in the corporate sphere in the ministries that you're bringing in that business lens, and how they're bridging the good Drummond, bringing
Absolutely.
in the Coniston.
You're seeing, you're right. And that's been coming for quite some time. And I don't think it's going to stop for a while. Implications for you new leaders and young leaders who are moving into the field. I'm conscious of our time, and I know that we're at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and imminently we're about to get into the fidgets. just like to go around the table and ask you to give feedback to each other and to me as well about the conversation we've had today. Did we achieve some of the things that I had read off to you in the beginning? And I'd like your thoughts and feedback on that. The second thing I want your thoughts and feedback on is that in June of this year, our company will be in business for 25 years. And I want to celebrate that. And I'm thinking of doing something in October to celebrate that. And would like to invite all of my customers and clients to participate in that, and those who aren't my customers and clients as well. But I'd like your thoughts. Maybe you don't have to think about it today, but what could we do that would be really super duper to celebrate? And I'd like to have it leadership themed, of course, but even if some of my eminent customers would be willing to provide leadership or workshops or papers or discussions or whatever, so to give some thought to that, and also some of the new leaders to give some thoughts to that as well. So I'm just going to plant that seed in your mind, but let me first of all go around the room and get your thoughts. What do you think? Would you do it again? If you did, what would you do differently? Maybe those kinds of ideas. Whoever wants to jump in. I did this, I gave a workshop 2 weeks ago in Casino Rama, and didn't lose any